I can absolutely understand how people get addicted to it, because it's just everywhere. It feels like a norm, a standard thing that you have to do. You go out, where are you going to meet your friends? Well, you got to meet them at the pub. Are you going to see your friends? You're going to see them at night in the club. How are you going to have fun? You don't want to be boring. There's this pressure that everywhere you go, you drink. You go watch the football, you got to drink. You go play pool, you got to drink. You go play football after it, stop at the pub, have a drink. There's all these habits, these situations where drink is involved, that it's weird how difficult it is to get away from it. And the stigma of your friends going, come on, man up, have a drink. Don't be a pussy. You know, there's all these pressures. So even me, I found it hard to quit, to stop, because there's a little voice in your head of, yeah, just have it. Just have one or whatever. Thanks for watching. Thanks for clicking on the video. Just want to let you know, like I always do, that I also post on Spotify. So give it a listen over there if you don't finish it on YouTube. And I post the best bits, clips on TikTok, Instagram Shorts. So go check them out. Link is in the description for everything. But yeah, enjoy. So I think this month is definitely a health theme, because it is the foundation of life, really. Or one of the foundations of life is to keep you, or pay attention to your physical body. And it's important to me, I think, to know that my physical body and my health is in check, because I can do this for a lot longer. I can have a better quality of life for a lot longer. And I can be happier for a lot longer. I think you start to focus on health when you get happy. When you figure out there is this meaning and this purpose to be alive. So you want to continue to carry on. If you haven't got the belief that you want to carry on, you're not going to be healthy. You're not going to make conscious decisions towards living better and longer. If you haven't figured that out, if you haven't thought deeply, for me, in my opinion, if you haven't thought deeply about life, about what it's all for, why you're doing all this, you've not got a reason to get up out of bed in the morning, a drive. And today's video is going to be about why I quit drinking at 23. And I'm 3 years sober. So I'm like every normal guy. I sort of drink since I was 18 with my friends and whatnot. Not massive madness. I won't be drinking all the time, just weekends and sort of like we do in England socially. And as a young kid, my sort of journey with alcohol is kind of just doing it because it's there. There's not really this bigger desire to drink. I drank because it was the thing you do. When you go running, you put a pair of running shoes on. When you go out to the clubs, you have a drink. When you go spend time with your friends at night, you go and have a drink. It's convenient, it's easy. And I remember actually first tasting alcohol and I thought, God, is this what the rave is about? Because if this is it, I'm in for a long ride. Because I never liked the taste. Well, you do get used to it over time. And when it comes to alcohol, it would only be for me the first 3 drinks that would be useful. I would get a little bit tipsy. That change in personality where you're lighter, where you're less serious, you can be open a bit more, you can be looser, like I said. And then after 3, I sort of sobered up. In my mind, I was completely fine. And then what would just happen is you would hit whatever certain amount of drinks, and then I'd just be throwing up, or I'd get to the point where I know if I have another one, I'm going to throw up. And I've had some nights where I blacked out. Well, I've had 2 nights where I blacked out, and I didn't feel like I was drunk until it happened. And that's my relationship with alcohol. And I wasn't dependent on it, or I didn't think I was dependent on it until I tried to quit. But I just never really felt the point, and then I would wake up in the morning and feel like shit. And it was just, in my mind, I sort of knew I wouldn't do it forever. I wasn't the sort of person that would grab a drink at home and whatnot and do it leisurely. Like, I know people do actually enjoy it. But the reason I quit, and the first point we're going to talk about quitting drinking alcohol, is the consequence. Now, we all know that there's a consequence to drinking. It comes with the playbook. We all know these things. And for me, again, like I've said in the last, 4 videos on YouTube that I've done, I'm a pussy. I find life hard. I find things difficult. And any interruption to that just sends me down a way where I struggle. So a fucking hangover is not something I want to do. I don't want to go and choose a night out and have fun there, but the consequence be that the next day I feel like shit. Surely I'd probably get over it by 1 or 2 o'clock, but I still felt like shit. And as obviously you get older, that hangover spreads. And for me, there's this air of sacrifice when it comes to drinking, that you know you're having a good time now, but the next day you're going to suffer. And there's this air of negativity, this air of a dampened situation, a dampened mood that I just didn't like, and I just didn't think it was worth it for me, because I wouldn't have this massive dopamine spike on a night out. It wouldn't give me this amazing feeling. 3 in would, but the rest of them wouldn't. And it wouldn't be worth it. That's my thing. It's not worth it for me. That's why I think I could quit. But you've got to understand that it does have consequences. That there are these times where you're choosing joy, where you're choosing pleasure, and there are consequences for it. And to me, my experience so far, they're hardly ever worth it when there's a negative consequence. And one of the consequences of drinking that I found is it disrupts your momentum. And I only realized this once I quit drinking, about momentum. Because what would happen is you'd be in the rhythm of going to the gym or doing something productive, or you almost being there with something, a dream, a mindset, something that you want to do, you're thinking about, you're debating, you're almost there. But then you get a little bit of setback because you're in a bad mood, you feel like shit, and you go, not today. And for me, it takes me a couple of weekends to build up to something. And when I've got this interruption of momentum, of progress, it's another consequence or another way that I look at alcohol and I say it isn't worth it. And for me, I can have just as good of a time on a night out sober as drunk. I don't, because like I said, my personality doesn't change that much when I'm drinking. I can do it. I can watch around and I can see people being drunk and not necessarily judge. And I think a lot of us can be okay on a night out without drink, without this stimulation. I think it almost has a bit of a placebo effect, getting drunk or drinking. It opens up a response for you to be open, to be your true self a little bit. Rather than it being the alcohol, I wonder if it is a bit of a placebo. You can be yourself. And that momentum in life, when it comes to your health, when it comes to anything really, it's so important to have momentum. It's so important to build up to things, to take that. Life gets so much easier when you have momentum. Think of any tough task you've had to do, or any jobs you got to do that you don't want. You'll do 1 and then you'll do 2, you'll do 3. You'll be in that mode, that mindset. You'll be in the groove of things. When I had my first sort of kind of relationship, when I had a girl I was seeing, but I was in a job that, it had its positives, it had its negatives, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. And when I ended it with this girl, I also ended it with the job. And I sort of kicked life, because what happens is when you build that momentum, it's easier to make decisions one after another, because you're in that groove. Like I said, the example is always, for me, if I'm going to do a job, if I got to clean, do jobs you don't want to do, I like bunching them together. I like doing them all at once, because it's easier, because I've got this energy that's pushing me forwards. And when I drink and I feel like shit the next day, I don't have that anymore. I think, oh, I can't be arsed. And the main point, the most important thing about not drinking is the health when it comes to physical and mental. And that's where I've noticed the most difference. Not only does alcohol make me feel like shit physically and mentally, but I can see it clearly. It's so obvious. It's so clear. The fogginess on your brain mentally, the bad mood swings that you have. You're irritable, you're touchy, because you feel like shit. And why are we putting ourselves in a position when we feel like shit? Why are we doing that on purpose to us? You would never go out there and go to the shop and buy a pill for £5 that makes you only feel like shit. Even if it gives you a little bit of a spike. You wouldn't do it if you knew that that's how it was sold to you. But physically, I've noticed the difference. I mean, you've got sleep. I don't get great sleep in terms of hours. Once I'm asleep, but I'm good with that. I can fall asleep quickly. Now, I mean, as I'm older, which this sounds so old, but weekends are a little bit for catching up with sleep. Having a late night, having this alcohol that does literally physically disrupt your sleep, it's not worth it. And that's what health decisions sort of are. You've got to figure out what's worth it and what isn't. And for me, I can get into bad moods. I'm human. So why mentally am I choosing to do something that's gonna automatically put me in a bad mood? Why am I saying it's worth it just for a little bit of dopamine? In life, you see that there are these short pleasures. You've got your porn, you've got your sugar, you've got your drugs, you've got your alcohol, you've got your events in life. And there are these short, quick dopamines. And there are these long pleasures, these pleasures that get drawn out, working out, doing, I don't know, competitions. When I watch these ultra runners, you see these get these runners high after so many hours. This long exhale of dopamine. You've got these ice baths where the dopamine or the pleasure, the feeling that it's worth it lasts for a long time. You've got a diet where it's just these little right decisions each day that just improve the air of your life. And alcohol isn't one. And it's strange, because when it comes to alcohol, even though I see these mental positives and physical positives, lower inflammation, you have less injuries, which obviously age, again, it builds that momentum in the gym, in your sport, in your health. When you go out drinking, you might go and have a fat kebab after, or a takeaway for tea that night, and it derails all this stuff. Even though there's all those things, it's a weird one, because I still found it hard. Even though I didn't get that much pleasure. So I can imagine people who actually think it's worth it, actually get pleasure from it, how they can find it difficult. I can absolutely understand how people get addicted to it, because it's just everywhere. It feels like a norm, a standard thing that you have to do. You go out, where are you going to meet your friends? Well, you got to meet them at the pub. Are you going to see your friends? You're going to see them at night in the club. How are you going to have fun? You don't want to be boring. There's this pressure that everywhere you go, you drink. You go watch the football, you got to drink. You go play pool, you got to drink. You go play football after it, stop at the pub, have a drink. There's all these habits, these situations where drink is involved, that it's weird how difficult it is to get away from it. And the stigma of your friends going, come on, man up, have a drink. Don't be a pussy. You know, there's all these pressures. So even me, I found it hard to quit, to stop, because there's a little voice in your head of, yeah, just have it. Just have one or whatever. And when I'm on holiday, you get a pleasure of having a drink. And there's these moments still now where I get these flickers of, maybe you should have one. Maybe you should have something. So I can fully understand how hard it can be to quit if you actually have a much bigger pleasure, because I didn't have that big of a dopamine spike with it, and yet I still found it hard. But one of the big reasons is the priority of money. I mean, where I spend my money is so important, and yet you're a stingy bastard and all that crap that people say. But in the honest truth, I would rather spend my money on a better gym membership than anything else, because I know the positive benefit that I'm gonna get from it. And I know I can spend more money on my food because I know the positive effect I'm gonna get from it. I know it's worth it. And there's all these little things that just are the better decision, that I'm gonna put my money into something that gives me a positive. And that's what you need to do when people say, I've not got money for this, not got money for that. What negatives are you using your money for that it would be better off if you just didn't do that? But yeah, that's why I quit drinking. Just a little another 1% added onto sort of this month of talking about health, and where the added 1% just does benefit you, does just improve your life and build that momentum. But yeah, thanks for watching. Peace.